а также преданию суду тех, кто совершил многочисленные кровавые преступления против мирных жителей, в том числе и граждан Российской Федерации.
When Russian President Vladimir Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine, he envisioned a quick and decisive victory. The plan was to take Kyiv in a flash and take control of Ukraine. But things didn't go as planned. Russian troops reached the outskirts of Kyiv, but were quickly pushed back. With strong support from Western nations, the war dragged on for more than 2 years, turning from a brief campaign into a brutal war of attrition. Was Russia ready for this protracted war? Let's analyze and find out. Armored vehicle status. Russia, despite having the world's second-largest military, is facing serious shortages of equipment and manpower in the war in Ukraine. With 14 777 tanks, of which 10 344 are combat-ready, Russia leads the world in tank numbers, according to Global Firepower. However, its production capacity of 500-600 tanks per year does not make up for the loss of nearly 3,000 tanks in 2 years, or about 1,500 tanks per year. The shortage has forced Russia to rely on older Soviet models and even unarmored vehicles such as the Desert Cross 1003, a 1.5-ton light all-terrain vehicle with an 85-horsepower engine. These vehicles are not well protected against Ukrainian drone attacks, which have killed scores of Russian soldiers. Russia can still deploy older models, but this depletes its reserves and puts the country on the hook for obsolete equipment. Between February 2023 and 2024, Russia will add around 1,500 tanks, but most of them will be old, with only 200 new ones being produced. This shows that Russia is trading quality for quantity, and if losses continue to mount, this strategy will be difficult to sustain in the long term. This situation not only weakens Russia's current combat capabilities, but also poses a major challenge for the future, especially if the country wants to restore its arsenal and launch offensives in the coming years. RUSI and the Estonian Ministry of Defense have warned that Russia will run out of armored vehicles by 2025 or 2026 if it continues to rely on refurbishing old vehicles rather than producing new ones. The production of new vehicles is being hampered by Western sanctions, which limit access to high-quality machine tools, components, and manufacturing equipment. Russia can import from China, but the quality is not guaranteed, and the transaction must go through underground channels, causing delays and difficulties. Estonian and RUSI researchers both believe that Russian armored vehicle production will fall sharply, forcing Russian soldiers to use unarmored vehicles, such as the Desert Cross 1003, on the battlefield. In this context, Ukraine needs to maintain the rate of destroying 4,500 armored vehicles per year as in the first 2 years of the war. This will deplete Russia's reserves even more quickly and force it to dig deeper into its old inventory or find new ways to produce them under challenging conditions. According to a CBC report in February 2024, a senior Pentagon official said Russia lost about 35,000 soldiers in the first 2 years of the war. For comparison, that's the entire Russian force deployed in Ukraine, forcing Moscow to mobilize 2 armies to keep the war going. According to Global Firepower, Russia has 69.5 million people eligible for military service, with 46.4 million people ready to serve and 1.275 million reaching military age each year. This makes Russia's potential shortage of combat manpower puzzling. Russia has replaced its ground forces and continues to send soldiers to the front lines, despite casualties of up to 35,000 or even nearly 400,000, according to Ukrainian figures. However, there are many glaring difficulties. First, many Russians do not want to fight in Ukraine. According to Mediazona, as of April 2024, more than 7,300 Russian soldiers have deserted since the conflict began, a 6-fold increase compared to before the war. In addition, the organization Lesum in Georgia, which specializes in assisting Russian soldiers who defect, said that the rate of request for assistance from Russian soldiers increased from 3% in the spring of 2023 to 30% in January 2024, with 500 requests in the first 2 months of the year. At international borders, the number of Russian asylum seekers has also increased sharply. In 2023, the United States accepted more than 57,000 Russians, an increase of 44,000 compared to 2021. Similarly, the number of first-time asylum applications from Russians in France increased by 50%, and in Germany, it tripled in the same year. These numbers, though small compared to the size of the Russian military, reflect a deepening division and morale crisis. According to former Russian commander Igor Girkin, by early 2024, the Russian military will lack the manpower to conduct major offensives and will need to mobilize civilians to replenish its forces. The Russian government has also raised the maximum conscription age to 70 and allowed veterans to be recalled. However, these measures cannot ensure that the troops are sufficiently skilled. According to the Institute for the Study of War, many Russian soldiers receive only 1 to 2 months of basic training, and some are deployed before completing 4 months of training. Reports from the Moscow Times and RAND suggest that many Russian reservists are not fully trained, leading to the military having to deploy unprepared forces that only serve as cannon fodder. In addition, the Russian VKS Air Force is also facing great difficulties. Ukraine claims to have shot down 342 Russian planes and 325 helicopters between February 2022 and February 2024. While these figures are unconfirmed, it is clear that Russia has not been able to gain air superiority over Ukraine, despite having the world's second-largest air force with 2,766 aircraft. All of this suggests that Russia is facing serious shortages of both manpower and equipment, significantly reducing its ability to sustain a long-term war. Risk of aircraft depletion. Russia's fighter jet force is shrinking, with less than 75% of its pre-war strength remaining as of March 2024, according to RAN. The VKS, Russian Air Force, has lost hundreds of aircraft in Ukraine and is overusing aging jets, with 60 expected to be retired in 2024 due to wear and tear. Russia produces only 20 Su-30, Su-34, and Su-35 aircraft annually, replacing just a third of losses from aging, not counting combat losses. Over half of its tactical airframes are over 30 years old, and these older jets, unlike tanks, are harder to refurbish after their service lifespan ends. While older aircraft like the MiG-31 and Su-27 are being used for patrols and missile strikes, many had only 20-35% of their airframe lifespan left at the war's start, and may be retired before its end. Sanctions have further strained Russia's ability to produce new aircraft, leaving it unable to replace aging fleets. Meanwhile, NATO has 800 fifth-generation jets and adds 100 yearly, highlighting Russia's reliance on outdated Soviet-era planes. Pilot quality. Pilots are another issue. Colonel Hannes Tumsalu of the Estonian Defense Reserves noted that Ukraine used French Scalp cruise missiles, launched from Su-27s, to sink the Russian cruiser Novichokazk in 2023. These missiles, with a range of 24,9448 meters, allow Ukraine to strike targets outside Russia's air defense zone. Tumsalu worries that Russia is running out of experienced pilots, which could explain why Russia failed to defend Novichokazk from Ukrainian missiles. He noted that the younger generation does not know how to cope with the challenges posed by older technologies. Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Inhat shared this view with Pravda in May 2023. Although Russia trains 100 to 150 pilots each year, Inhat said that the VKS, Russian Air Force, is not lacking pilots, but rather the problem lies in quality. Newly graduated pilots have to learn on the battlefield, while many of the airframes are already obsolete. In addition to the Air Force, Russia also has serious problems with its Navy. Despite possessing a powerful Black Sea fleet, Russia lost many warships in the war, including the Novichokazk. Ironically, Ukraine, with a fleet of 104 mostly patrol boats, has inflicted heavy losses on Russia's Black Sea fleet. Ukraine claims that as of March 2024, it had destroyed or damaged a third of the Black Sea Fleet's warships. Ukrainian missile and drone attacks have severely weakened Russia's naval capabilities. For example, the attack by the Magyar 5 drone sank the Russian cruiser Sysakunikov. Russia has not only lost warships, but also had difficulty replacing them. Professor Katarina Zisk of the Norwegian Institute for Defense Studies said that the Russian shipbuilding industry is stagnant due to economic, financial, and corruption problems. Western sanctions have exacerbated the situation, making it impossible for Russia to import diesel engines from Germany or other equipment needed to build new ships. These difficulties were predicted in advance. In 2016, researcher Christian Allen said that Russia might not complete any new ships before 2025 if the situation did not improve. This prediction has come true as Ukraine has repeatedly attacked Russian shipyards and Russia's Black Sea Fleet has been increasingly weakened. A typical example is the missile corvette Cyclone, which Russia deployed to the Black Sea in July 2023, but was sunk in a Ukrainian attack after only 10 months of operation. Russia is not only struggling with its Navy and Air Force, but also with basic equipment for its ground forces. Multiple reports from the battlefield suggest that Russian soldiers are often under-equipped. A video from January 2023 shows Russian soldiers complaining that they are only being provided with machine guns and that other weapons are broken. Issues such as stale food rations and outdated equipment are also frequently mentioned. All of this points to a deep crisis in Russia's ability to maintain its warfighting capabilities. Russia's resources, from pilots to warships to ground equipment, are running out, forcing the country to increasingly rely on Soviet-era technology and makeshift solutions. Struggles to find fresh weapons and supplies. Recently, reports have suggested that Russia will struggle to obtain more weapons and materials to continue the war. According to a BBC article in February 2024, a Western diplomat said that Russia's domestic ammunition supply was insufficient to meet the needs of the war in Ukraine. The official claimed that sanctions had taken a heavy toll on Russia, forcing Moscow to buy equipment from other countries or take advantage of supplies that were originally intended for export. For example, Russia has been holding back some military material that was supposed to be shipped to India, according to the BBC. This may explain why India is turning to Western suppliers to buy more. Russia cannot continue to supply India with weapons due to severe domestic shortages. Russia is also having trouble with artillery. According to Forbes, Russia has about 2,000 artillery pieces along a 9,656-meter front in Ukraine, with about 5,000 shells fired each day. On average, each gun fires just 5 shells per day, although important areas on the front line can use more. Russian gun barrels typically only last about a year of use before becoming brittle and needing to be replaced. However, replacing gun barrels is currently a major challenge. One source said Russia has lost 1,143 guns to Ukraine since the war began, while much of the remaining artillery is deteriorating. With these significant shortages, can Russia still be viewed as a leading global military power? As the conflict nears its final stages, can Putin perform miracles to boost morale and turn around the situation? Russia initiated this war. Will it also be the one to end it? Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll analyze any potential shifts in Russia's strategy and explore whether Ukraine will receive additional support from its NATO allies. Have a great day and goodbye.